Hello again, and welcome to Winning with the Wrangler at Dick Powell's Leadership Corner, brought to you by Earth, Wind, Fire, Water Training and Development, where our passion is building leaders of today and tomorrow. Leaders, I'm going to take a step in a different direction today, and because I'm going to ask a question of you. Are you destined to lead? You see, that's a big question, isn't it? All of us who say we are leaders, or we act as leaders, we do leadership, we teach leadership, we instruct leadership, we do this. The question is, are you destined to lead? So we're going to start there. Now, as far back as I can remember, people have sought me out for answers. I've had some really great experiences, and also I've had some horrific experiences being the go-to guy. Sometimes I'm the leader. Sometimes I'm the default leader of the pack who needs answers. You see, this thing of leadership, I love it when they ask me, well, are leaders born or are they made? And I always say yes, because I truly believe leadership gene is born in each and every one of us. Because we lead from the day that we come out from the womb. We lead the person taking care of us by crying or messing our britches. And we continue that the rest of our life. Some get better at it, some don't. Some do some more research and get more involved and stay in tune. But are you destined to lead? I was approached by a person that had a burning question on his heart. He had gone the traditional route, asking the leaders of the organization about some of the things he was questioning. Time and time again, he was told that the answer would have to come from the guy at the top of the leadership pyramid. Now, this poor young fella was doing his best to do the inquiry process, ask the right questions, but he was getting stymied at each and every turn, stymied at each and every level. In utter frustration, and quite frankly, at a point of anger, he sought me out. Well, I listened while he went through the whole terrible ordeal, step by step, and roadblock after roadblock. Now, I did my best to wait until he was done and totally out of breath. And I asked this what question? What can I do for you? Now, after waiting 30 minutes, I'm not so sure that's the question he wanted to hear. What can I do for you? Now, he politely asked if maybe, just maybe, I could go and seek an answer for him. I asked if he had spoken to the top individual, and my friend, this young person, said, I don't know him well enough. I've tried to build a relationship, and he is overeducated and somewhat snooty. Well, I sat back in my chair and said, do you trust he will give you an honest answer? And this is when things got a little dicey. Because this young man said, quite frankly, he said, I'm really not sure. I'm told my friend that I would do what I could and get back to him. I saw him in his hour of need and his whole question of trust. And because he'd hit so many roadblocks, because he had gone so far, his level of trust in the whole process was so low. He was ready to walk out, take his career, go somewhere else, and just move on. Well, I did my thing. Off I went to see what I could do about finding out. And first one, then two, then three of the leaders gave me the same answer, that I would have to go see the man at the top. Now, realize that I was on the same level as these other people I was asking. So I was their counterpart. I was on that same level. I was right there with them. And they were still stonewalling me. Well, I'm a pretty persistent guy. So off I went to talk to the top dog, in the organization. And when I finally ran him down, I asked the burning question that my friend had needed to get an answer to. The top dog's immediate response was, give me his name and I will talk to him. Give me his name and I will talk to him. I answered, absolutely not. A confidence is a confidence, and he's uncomfortable coming to you, and I have the same questions. After the top dog realized I would not divulge the name, he did provide an answer, which I took back to my friend. With the question answered, but missing an opportunity to begin rebuilding the damaged relationship. You see, he'd gotten his question answered, but it was going to take a long time to rebuild this relationship. He had lost hope. He had lost a desire. He had lost all the parts and pieces of what I would call a great employee, a good and great person working next to me, another leader who I respected. And it was going to take some time. Now, I'm going to walk you through some of the problems or opportunities that was happening here. Now, leaders, I want you to listen to this, and I want you to listen closely, because if you see yourself in here, we have some ways that we're going to suggest to you to correct them. I know that's not what you want to hear, but think about it. As leaders, if we're not doing ongoing continuous learning, what are the people around us seeing? So let's look at some of these problems and discuss them in a high-level manner. Not yelling and screaming at one another, but on a high-level manner. First of all, the first problem that I saw, quite frankly, was leadership is not shared in this organization. And the other leaders had no idea where they fit. So when leadership is not shared within an organization, the people around them get an unwritten message, a silent message, you might say. This message is, you don't matter. We don't care about you. You're not smart enough to understand. And the list goes on and on. And when leadership isn't shared like this, I'm going to tell you what, breakdown happens pretty quick. So an organizational chart of who does what, when, where, and who reports to whom and how it's done, and there's some kind of accountability piece, that will start to take care of that. Where do the other leaders fit in? Man, if they don't know, you got a problem. The second big problem that I saw in this situation was trust had been broken or was non-existent. Because the other leaders wouldn't give this young person an answer, or at least say, hey, I don't know, let me go find out and I get back to you. The trust level that this person has now for the leadership team will be hard to be rebuilt. Another situation that we saw, quite frankly, was no relationship had been built among the leaders and the followers. Basically, the followers were told to sit down and shut up. That's what they heard. It might not have been the words used by the leaders, but that's what they heard. Don't ask questions, just do what I tell you to do. Might makes right. We all know that doesn't work. Unfortunately, that's still the way we run our educational system here in America. The other one we looked at was poor leadership, and leadership falls on more than one person in the organization. Leadership only fell on one person. It couldn't get an answer except for the guy at the top. Think about that, how terrible that is. Nobody else can make a decision? some of the real contributors to this situation was no time, no trust, no relationship, no sharing of information, afraid or unable to make a decision, having been put down too many times, it was just easier to pass it on. If that's your organization, if that's what's happening in your organization, do something about it. I'm going to tell you what, it's going to take time to rebuild that kind of trust in your organization. And you know what? This is a trust that comes from the bottom up. I don't care how big your organization is, the people at the bottom, people actually doing the work, don't trust the people at the top. To them, it's just a J-O-B, just over broke. And I'm going to quite be honest with you, that's not the employees I want. I want the employees who can think for themselves and make decisions and do things and be creative. So let's talk about solutions. We've talked about some of the problems. Let's talk about solutions. Okay? We looked at problems. Leadership is not shared in the organizations. Where do the leaders fit? Trust has been broken and non-existent. No relationship has been built among leaders or followers. And poor leadership falls on more than one person in the organization. That the contributors to this opportunity was no time, no trust, no relationship, no sharing information, afraid or unable to make a decision, and having been put down too many times, it was just easier to pass it along. Let's look at some solutions. You know, I love solutions. I do. Of course, this is what we do for a living. We go into corporations and organizations and even churches, and we find this very same thing happening. We find it more in churches today than we do anyplace else, to be honest with you. Let's look at some solutions. Because solutions mean happy workers, happy people, engaged people. It really does make a difference. So some of the solutions would be leaders, listen. Leaders, listen. And then they discern. They take and gather all the information they can to the question. Then they give the answer. Now, if you can't give an answer right off the bat, you need time to discern, you need time to collect more information, tell the person that. Give them a time and a date when you're going to provide them with the answer. And then keep to it. Take action and make it happen. You see, that in itself of sharing, hey, I don't know the answer to that, let me find out and I get back to you tomorrow at 6 o'clock. That's taking action. And then follow through at 6 o'clock, make sure you follow through and make it happen. You see, that builds trust. That builds involvement. That builds a link and a bridge between you and the other person, a relationship. And companies, organizations, churches, families don't last without that relationship. Think about that one for a minute. Solutions. Never answer quickly. Listen to the whole download, take time and process, then answer. Now, I'm going to tell you what, there'll be times when you're going to have to make a quick decision. You know, somebody's bleeding on the floor, you're going to have to make a quick decision, call 911, you got to do something. There are other times when, hey, this is a new process and I don't see it working the way we thought it would, and the person comes to you and maybe they're upset, maybe they just need to download. Give them the time they need. And when they're done, if you need time to give a good answer, if you need time to make that decision, tell them. Tell them up front. Tell them I'll get back to you later today at 2:30, 3 o'clock, or whatever, and I'll have a decision with you. But I need some more time to collect information before I give you that answer. Be open and honest. Make sure that you're open and honest. Don't fib to them. Don't give them a time and date and not keep it. This is all about trust and relationship building, my friends. That's what leadership is a big part about, accountability. Leaders, Solution. If one person comes to you and says that they are representing others, don't ask who the others are. I don't even care if you think they're making it all up. I don't care. When you ask, give me their names, I'll talk to them. You just broke the trust with that person you're talking to, and you're expecting them to break the trust with the people who came to them. That, my friends, that'll move you way down on that leadership ladder as trust and relationship. I just had this happen, and it was a pastor. Terrible, terrible thing. I hope he's learned from it. I hope he's grown from it. But this whole thing is this is really a huge trust situation. When someone comes to you and says, "Hey, several people have come to me and asked them to come to you," if you respond, quite frankly, that they need to come to me themselves, well, they came to this other person because they didn't trust you, or they didn't know enough about you to be able to ask the question. But it's normally a relationship trust value. So in this trust value, you need to practice the listening part again. Go right back to the first. Listen intently. Discern. Answer. Take action. If you need to have faith that the person is coming to you, will start a chain of communication. You see, when people do not get answers, and they run into roadblocks, and they can't get those answers, and they get banged, and they get banged, and they banged. Let me explain to you what happens, leaders. Those people will make up their own answers. And they will tell the next person their own answer, and that person will tell somebody else their own answer, and that answer becomes real, even if it's not. Even if it's way far from the truth. You did not provide the truth, so they made up their own answers. And now faith, trust, hope has gone down. Relationship has gone down. To build that back, it's going to be huge. So if your first response to someone who comes in and says, look, several people come and ask me, and they know I've got a pretty good relationship with you, and I've been asked to come in and talk to you about this. If you bang them on the head right then and there, that'll stop the process. It'll ruin the relationship. It'll take away trust. It'll remove hope that anything can be done. And it'll be hard to rebuild that. And leader, it'll be on your side of the house to rebuild it, not theirs. Solution. Take some time to be intentional, to add some trust building and relationship mending opportunities among your leaders and everyone else. Leader, if you found yourself, if you say, gee, Dick, I hear what you're saying, and that's me. Don't be disheartened. None of us are perfect. And I will bet you every one of us as leaders have fallen into this trap from time to time. We've gotten busy. We've gotten overloaded. We've had a lot of things on our minds. Someone's come in and said something, and we just non-thinkingly answered too quickly. Well, you know, part of leadership that means is sometimes you have to go back and say, hey, I screwed up. I made a mistake. Let's take this, roll this back here, and let's take a look at it. Or let's make a time and date to sit down and discuss it. I'm really sorry that those folks don't have faith and trust in me to come to me. Let's work on this, and you can take back the answer, but encourage them that I'm open and I'd like to build that relationship with them so they feel the same trust as you do. But if you shut down that person, boy, that's going to get out quicker than you can imagine. It'll run rampant like wildfire through your organization. It'll really run rampant through your church. And if you're the pastor, I'm going to tell you what, even pastors have to stand up every once in a while and say, hey, I'm not perfect. I screwed up. You can say whatever. I was busy. I was overloaded. I answered too quickly. Gee, I'm really sorry about that. Let's go back and work on it. You see, that's part of the big one, isn't it? This thing of solutions. It's a lot more to it than what we ever want to believe. This thing of admitting when we've made a mistake, we've screwed up, we said something we shouldn't have said, we've done something we shouldn't have done. I'm going to share with you some things, because no matter where you are in leadership, whether you're a leader of an organization, a large company, a church, a household, there's going to be a time or two that you just flat screw up. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story about screwing up. I think it'll go along with this, so you better understand. You see, a long time ago, just before my 19th birthday, by the way, I started off working as a lineman on a utility company. And I was skinny and young and a smart aleck who thought he knew it all. And I was soon learned that I didn't know anything. You see, I learned that you had to admit quickly when you screwed up and solve it if you were going to be accepted and be truthful, trusted. At the end of the day, as we would do our paperwork and talk about what had been completed and what needed to be done the next day, we would always ask the same question. Was there something we could have done better, and what did we need to change? On a large crew, you find out early it's better to say when you've made a mistake rather than try to cover it up. You see, when you admitted the error and took the heat, it was forgotten as quickly as you made it. If not, it would be years of stories, and you would hear them the rest of your career. And you deserved them too, because you didn't own up to the problem situation. Now, I learned from the old line guy that to apologize and move on. Now, he told me that about a dozen times till I finally got it. But this is just what it says: apologize, learn from your mistakes, move on, pass on your knowledge. My grandfather always said, "Them who make no mistakes are them who do nothing." That's a pretty smart thing, isn't it? But so you're going to do something sometime, someplace, somewhere. Apologize. Learn from it. Move on. Now, in the same piece, sometimes you're going to do something right. just goes to show you're not going to screw up all the time. You're going to do something right. But learning to accept praise is just as hard as accepting I screwed up. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn. And I still struggle with it from time to time. You see, I remember the time that the lead lineman came to me one afternoon and told me that I had done a really great job. And I had come from a family where that never happened, and I did not know how to react, so I made a joke about it. Well, I looked at him and I saw the hurt in his eyes by not accepting what he was giving. I learned a valuable lesson that day. Okay? And I learned it the hard way. When we do not accept praise that we are given, we hurt them and ourselves. You see, it's just like when you screw up, you've got to accept it and own it. This same lineman taught me also how to give praise. He taught me how to accept when I did something not so good, when I did something good, but how to look for the good in others. How to give praise. He said, finding something good to say about someone, he said, should be easy. It works as a great way to make your day a positive one, yours and theirs. You see, the person receiving the praise, it'll make their day. But you know what? He told me many times, you can't be phony about this, because if you're phony about it, they'll know. And now you'll be right back up to step one, admitting when you screwed up. You see, that's why these go together. This old lineman taught me a whole lot. That 5 years I worked with him, I started off as his grunt, digging holes and climbing poles and doing whatever I was told to do. But those 5 years were some good years. One of the things he constantly put in front of me and told me, yes, you're going to make mistakes. Yes, you're going to get some good stuff. And yes, you're going to screw up. But he said the very best thing you can do is to keep learning. You see, that's part of making a mistake and screwing up. It's the learning part. He said never stop learning. He said, Dick, you've got to read everything you get your hands on. Now, he always kept a stack of the trade journals in the truck. And he expected us to do something with them. Some of us did, some of us didn't. I did. I loved it. Okay. No one loved being a lineman more than I did. So the trade journals helped me keep current on what was going on in that world and stay current of all the different pieces. He would oftentimes bring me books that I tell you what, I just didn't really understand a lot of them. You know, the first one was from Zig Ziglar, you know, See You at the Top. And I thought, I'm a lineman. To see at the top, this means climbing poles. Well, that wasn't all. That wasn't at all what it was about. But that was what he knew, that this was not going to be where I was going to end up. He knew that line work was going to be a start. I don't think he knew at the end of my career I'd be the lead lineman for the country and doing the instruction for the linemen across the country. I don't think I knew that either. He said, you know, make sure that you're reading the newspaper and you're staying current what's happening in today's world. You know, he said to be careful, don't be discouraged about the negative things that happen. Just make sure you stay current. So when he was talking to me about this thing, admit when you screw up, and he went on to teach me these other parts and pieces, he would keep referring back to it that, Dick, most days you're going to screw up someplace. Most days you're going to have to find some place for saying, hey, I'm sorry, I messed that up. How do I fix it? Let's go fix it. Most days I certainly hope that you find someone to tell that they're doing a good job. Most days I hope someone tells you that they appreciate what you're doing and you accept that. And I'm going to encourage you, he said, to every day, you're going to learn something new by reading. Now, I'll tell you what, he was one smart old guy. He's passed away now. But I learned so much from him that I have to tell you that I'm indebted to him for it. So when we talk about all the things we've talked about, are you destined to lead and admit when you screw up? You see how those two things go together. Now, in today's world, I believe that so many times we're afraid to admit when we made a mistake, but I'll tell you what, admit to it, learn from it. Use it as a positive learning tool and not something negative. All right. On behalf of myself, Dick Powell, and the whole Leadership Corner team, we want to say thank you for being a part of today's program. Our hope is that you've received a nugget of wisdom and guidance that will help you build your leadership ability and those of other people around you. Now, if you have any questions or comments on today's program, don't hesitate. Send me an email, dick@leadershipwrangler.com. dick@leadershipwrangler.com. If you'd like to set an appointment with myself, go to www.leadershipwrangler.com, click on the little tab, set the appointment, and we'll get to you as fast as we can. www.leadershipwrangler.com. If it's a burning question and you need something answered right now, don't hesitate. Give us a phone call, 727-422-1833. 727-422-1833. And when your organization is ready to have the Leadership Wrangler come and work with you on your leadership and accountability, Just give us a call here and we will make it happen. Until next time, DW Wrangler saying, ride hard, ride fast.